Venom, there are
Porra, o PC bugou. Que isso? O PC explodindo. Acabou lá.
behind the CGI of Venom, there are stunts, practical effects, and a ton of impressive acting. Venom is a really visually exciting movie to watch, especially because of the wild and shocking transformation
Caralho!
Eddie undergo.
É ele que faz a cena? Pera.
Behind the scenes is just as
Pera. É ele que faz... Caô. Mano, que doideira. É ele que faz... É ele que tá realmente dentro do Venom? Faz sentido, né? Porque a máscara abre e ele aparece. Cara, eu nunca tinha parado pra pensar nisso, velho. Que doideira.
Definitely doesn't hold back on the wild action and impressive CGI work. These tendrils have a total life of their own.
Mano, tô muito ansioso pra ver esse filme, velho.
Behind the scenes, the Carnage arm grab looks pretty different. Instead of real tendrils, wires and harnesses did the heavy lifting to make sure the cameras captured what they needed. The restricted spin around while being held by wires looks far from comfortable to deal with, but it was well worth it considering just how epic the final result looks. While Tom Hardy gives a great performance, the shape-shifting transformation we see on screen from man to supervillain is all thanks to painstakingly detailed CGI work. The VFX team actually created animations for every single frame we see. While it took a lot of time and expertise, it was the best way to make sure the transformation looked as slick and real as it does. Every layer of the detailed animation images contributes to making Venom's interactions with people and the world look so convincing. One of the coolest scenes in the first Venom takes to the streets with this massive mess of black tendrils moving from flat on the ground to a powerful stance. While his movements look flawless in the final cut, behind the scenes was a very different story, as the actors were hard at work to perfect choreography to properly map out the movements. The CGI team needed the best footage to work with to bring Venom to the screen in such a central and powerful way. In the end, they definitely were not disappointed. The second Venom film features a pretty massive leap onto the hood of a car that's made to look like an effortless motion in post-production. But as we can see behind the scenes, a lot of prep had to be done and safety measures had to be considered for this superhuman moment. Seeing just how intense the stunt is without CGI is a great example of how much acting the performers need to do to appear as though these daunting tasks are totally effortless. Venom Let There Be Carnage is filled with plenty of shooting scenes which, of course, are no match for the creature. The drama of it all is still as present without CGI, considering the high stakes and loud noises. All the flashes of light and details to support the storytelling are courtesy of added effects, since they were just shooting blanks on the set. The living room sequence in the first Venom film is one of the most intense battles, in part because of the power imbalance. 1 versus 3 hardly seems fair, except for when the one actually turns out to be pretty fine on his own thanks to the power of Venom. The CGI in this scene is key for showing the surprising and powerful transformation Tom Hardy goes through. A whole lot of stage combat and practical effects contributed to executing the battle so well.
Cara, pera que essa cena ficou muito boa mesmo,
As
velho.
he slowly discovers the sheer amount of power he has, Tom Hardy looks a bit crazy staring down at his fist as if it were a monster. And to be fair, with the CGI, monstrous is a pretty good descriptor for what we end up seeing. Part of what makes the CGI so effective is the fact that Hardy performed each of these scenes with 100% commitment, especially when he was embodying Venom. The motorcycle chase scene is one of the most complicated sequences shot for the first film, and an epic point of action. While the scene itself lasts a few minutes, before filming
que pegado, mano.
for months to make sure it could all be carried out efficiently while making sure the epic footage was still captured. What's even crazier is that the whole chase was actually filmed, and CGI was what managed to weave the whole scene together seamlessly, and with impressive detail no less. Stunt doubles took over for the actual riding on the streets. Robbie Madison and Joe Dryden performed legendary motorbike stunts. Considering all the planning, it's no surprise about 40 cars ended up being used and inevitably destroyed over the course of filming. While CGI did amp up the look of this nosedive through flames, stunt performer Dryden really did whip through fire to make sure the team had the best shot they could get. To be perfected, of course, with special effects. we get to see the Venom tendrils in full force when they bring Hardy's character to safety. Well, as safe as someone can be whipping through the city on a motorcycle. Filming in studio saw the actor maneuvered by a harness to move from floating in the air to regaining control. But the moment CGI came into play was when the scene really came to life. Robbie Madison looked danger straight in the face when he was preparing for the huge jump on the famously steep Bullet Hill. This was actually the performer's very first jump in America, and was it ever a cool one. Since the team was limited in how many times the stunt could be performed, they needed CGI to make sure the scene looked good in the movie. After 3 stunt jumps, Madison was able to really hear the sounds of the cars crashing and the intensity of the whole experience hit him. The effects added in post made the jump look even more legendary. For the wicked motorcycle sandwich, the performers were in real cars and Hardy was actually on top of a motorcycle. But the whole scene was filmed while the vehicles were stationary. Filming with a blue screen behind them, Hardy had some good opportunities to really perform while on the motorbike, and all the while not having to worry about his safety.
Caralho, que doideira essa cena, velho. Mano, é que eu caralho, nunca tinha visto na minha vida. Os caras, olha isso, eles mexendo os bagulho, velho.
Motorcycle slide is nothing short of impressive. The 2 weeks spent to create a specially designed metal plate for the motorcycle to attach to in order to safely whip around with such speed was well worth the effort. The experience of filming was pretty wild, and the final result adds a really cool, unexpected moment to the whole sequence. The visual details of Venom really complete the masterpiece. This apartment fight was pretty wicked, and included the vicious weight-throwing move. Luckily, the actors weren't in any actual danger since there weren't any real weights on the set. CGI isn't just used for big explosions and out-of-this-world creatures. Sometimes generating images for more typical or practical effects is what's needed. With major throws come a whole lot of wires and harnesses. While in the first movie we see exactly what outer force throws him around, behind the scenes it almost looks a bit more like magic since Hardy was hooked up to wires and harnesses, making sure the tricky stunts could be filmed safely. It looks incredible in rehearsal, so it's no surprise that the final product is a gem as well. Slamming into the wall over and over again can't have been the most comfortable experience for the actor, though. There were a fair number of window jumps in the first Venom film. Some simple leaps from inside a corridor, shattering glass in the midst, and in other cases, epic leaps through the air. In both cases, CGI played a key role, filling in the scenery and making performers look like
deve ser muito louco, né, velho? Mandar uma dessa assim, velho. Imagina. Que o cara ali realmente pulou a janela, né? Deve ser muito louco, velho.
And Venom really is like no other we've seen before. The sheer amount of practical effects and
caralho, muito doideira, velho.